Life After the Rams with Colin Gibson.
Welcome back to Life After the Rams. This is episode 16. Today we're joined by a player whose story runs deeper than most. A debut at 16, but banned from the game later in his career. This one, in front of an audience at Mr. Shaw's house, is where Shane Nicholson opens up with raw truth. Settle in, it's a special one. Hello and welcome to Mr. Shaw's house and to everyone listening on the podcast. Thanks for joining us for this special event and live recording of Life After the Rams. Today we're bringing you episode 16 and it's a big one. We're sat in front of a brilliant crowd. We rehearsed that about 3 times. In a brilliant venue for a conversation with someone who has seen the highs and the lowest of lows. So whether you're here in the room or wherever you may be listening around the world, settle in and please welcome Shane Nicholson.
Thank you.
So you and I had the pleasure of working together years ago for the football club when it was really getting ahead with its media work and so on. And I just showed the audience here a photograph of myself, yourself and Owen Bradley at Wembley Stadium in May 2019. And on reflection now, Shane, that was really the beginning of the end of that old Derby County under Mel Morris, where he'd pumped in a load of money and hoped that it would work, and they'd reached the semi-finals of the playoffs the previous year, got to the final after that incredible night against Dirty Leeds in the semi-final second leg, and then played Villa. And as I was saying just before we started recording, it was all going so well until Frank announced that team at Wembley against the Villa. How much do you remember of that? Because it's crikey, how long ago is it now? It's 7 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember. Obviously, it was a massive anticlimax after working on the Leeds game. So obviously worked with that with Owen. And the performance and everything about the game, the Leeds United, the saga with those spying on us in training and everything else. It just added more spice. But then you go to the Villa game, like you said, and then Frank chose the team that he chose. And the game really was a bit of an anticlimax. They were far too superior for us, I thought. And that was proven by what they went on to do in the next 5 years. But that's not to say, I felt that Frank's football I really enjoyed it personally. It was attacking, free-flowing. Did he get a few things wrong? Yeah. He'd probably look back at that now and probably change 1 or 2 things. But yeah, I thought he was great for the football club at that time.
Yeah, it was certainly an exciting time. We'll talk more about Rams TV and media as we go along. Let's go back. We'll start with days at Derby. You only scored 1 goal for Derby. 2. You only scored 2 goals for Derby. We can edit that out better out, can't we? Maybe there was a really famous one. Was it your goal or was it Chris Wood's own goal?
I go by what Martin Tyler, Andy Gray and Mr. Richards says. He says it was a great strike from the halfway line from Shane Nicholson. So I'll take that.
It was a cracking shot, wasn't it?
It was all right, yeah. It was. I mean, I look at myself on the video. I look about 8 stone wet through. And, I couldn't throw the ball as far as that now. I can't even kick it that far, that's for sure.
What was can you remember that far back? Can you remember when the ball comes to you, what you're going to do?
Yeah, I remember, because it wasn't planned or anything, but Cooley got the ball down and he didn't talk. He kind of mumbled his words, Martin did. I don't even know where he was from. I think it was from Portsmouth or something like that. He used to mumble his words under his breath. Obviously, the ground was packed. And I just saw him look up from, he was bent down over the ball and he looked at me and just winked and said something and played the ball to me. And then I just remember taking a touch out of my feet and I just remember the ball just taking a little tiny lift off a little bump as I hit it. And as soon as I hit it, I just knew it wasn't going to be an own goal. It was going to go straight in off the bar, off his back and then straight in.
So it didn't hit Chris Woods and went no anyway?
No.
It wasn't it. was 3-3, wasn't it? It was a cup tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quarter-final FA Cup. I think that made it 2-1. That made it 2-1, I think that did. Yeah. But I actually think Gabba's goal was better than mine, actually. His goal was exceptional. But I'll take my goal for sure.
Modesty all the way. When you look back at your time at Derby and your days at Derby, what stands out?
Many things, really. The day I signed, I can remember leaving Lincoln City because my life was in turmoil at the time, as you'll find out. But I remember leaving Lincoln City and driving down to the ground, and I was going to meet the gaffer, Mr. Cox. And the captain of Lincoln City, I never had an agent at the time, the captain of Lincoln City actually drove me down there. I'd never been to Derby in my life. I wasn't driving. And he drove me there, and then I got put into the director's room. And I sat there on my own, and it was like something out of a horror movie. It was like all wooden walls everywhere, and I'm sat there, I can just hear these footsteps coming down. And then the door opens, and he virtually says, right, this is the contract, you're going to sign it. I didn't even look at it, to be honest. And I signed it. He says, right, you can go downstairs there, you can sit in the physio's room. You can have a rest, half an hour rest, and I want you to play in a reserve game tonight. So I did that. And signed it, and that was it, the day that I signed. But, I mean, it's a huge club. At the time, they were spending an awful lot of money as well. So I remember the first day into training, I'm sat with, like, Tommy Johnson, Gabbers, Mark Pembridge, Charlesy, just some really, really, the older players, Ted McMinn, some fantastic players. And it's like your first day at school. You're so nervous. And I remember my first training session actually was, I actually got sent off for kicking Tommy, because the gaffer put me up against Tommy because there was a game coming up, and I thought, well, I need to, just to leave my mark on Tommy a little bit so people recognise me and know what I'm about. So I did that. And he used to call me Abraham, the gaffer did, because I was from Lincoln, so he thought Abraham Lincoln was hilarious. So everyone laughed at it, but it was crap. But everyone, laughed to make him, because he was the gaffer. And he sent me off. No, you shouldn't be doing that, son, not to your own players. Save that for the opposition. So, yeah.
Quite an introduction, then.
Yeah. I think it went down quite well.
How long did it take you before it became your place in the team?
My place at Derby, as people will know, I never, because of what was going on in my life, I was very untrustworthy as a person. And just because my life was that, I was living that life. And managers could see that. They didn't know what I was doing, talking about the drink and the drugs. But because I was so unstable, my performances would be up, down, up, down, up, down. I could be a really, really good player, but then for 3 games, I could be a really poor player and untrustworthy, and then get sent off, and so out of the game then for 3 games. So I was up and down. I never felt really that I had that shirt at Derby. I was up with Mickey Forsyth, who was a legend at the Rams, but he eventually moved inside to the centre half. I went to left full back, and I played there for a while. I got a few games in, which I was happy about. But never really felt I cemented the position, to be quite honest.
You say the troubles. Are they troubles that you brought with you from Lincoln, or did they really fester when you came to Derby?
No, the problems started obviously as a kid. So as a young man, I'm living with my parents. My father was an alcoholic. He was abusive to my mum. He was violent towards my mum, violent towards me. And so as a kid, my first addiction was actually football, because I was an escape. So to get out the toxic household, I would go and play football. It wasn't something that I'd planned to do. And then by doing that, I realised I was okay at it. And because I never wanted to be at home, I was always on the football field, you get quite good at it. And eventually I got signed up at Lincoln, which... a big club. I had trials all over the place, all over the place. Even England, Forest, everywhere, and having to deal with the rejection as well as going through what you go through, or I was going through. I found it quite difficult. So yeah, the problems started as early as 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. That's when I started drinking. So that was from school. And the drinking started. I didn't wake up one day and go, right, do you know what, I'm going to start drinking today. That's not why you stop it. There's always a reason why we do things. My reason was because I was an insecure, frightened little boy. I've got a dad who was violent. So my escapism first, as I said, was football. And then it became drink and drugs. And that kind of masked how I felt. And because of the way that he was, and I loved my dad, by the way. And he's not with us no more, but I loved him, even though he was what he was. The drink and the drugs kind of masked everything for me. You know, I felt that because of the way that he was with me and with my mum, I felt that I needed to be this tough guy. And I was probably 13, 14 years old, probably 8 stone wet through. Clearly I wasn't going to be that, but I just felt that I had to be that. And it was this tough man that I felt that I had to be. This continued year on year on year on. And then when I've got drink and drugs inside me, it was like just a match made in heaven for me. It was because the one made me angry, and I became this kind of volcano that would erupt at any time. And I always felt that I felt I had a superpower, which was my anger. I was never scared, and I just felt I could always go like that and just flip, which I kind of weirdly was kind of made me feel safe, which was very rare for me as a kid, because I never ever felt, or I just didn't feel safe as a kid at all. I was always scared. Scared of him, scared of the dark, scared of everything, because of how my life was at home. Made me into this very, very insecure kid. So then you get me on a pitch in front of so many people. That was my escape, and I just loved it. So every single club that I went to, I probably got awarded, I don't know how many times, being the best trainer. And it wasn't because I was trying to be, it's because I just didn't want to come off the training pitch, because once I come off the training pitch, it meant I had to go home and try and live a life that I didn't feel I could live. Or possibly wasn't worthy of living as well, actually. So it was tough. It was tough. Derby, but again, going back to Derby, being my club, it was just a huge club, and I knew it was going to give me great opportunities. Playing with fantastic players, playing in front of an incredible crowd, the most amazing ground as well. And we had some incredible memories. I remember my debut was against Leicester City, I think it was against. Just some fantastic memories. The Wembley Italian final was fantastic, and met some good friends. Made some really, really good friends over the years as well. You being one of them, Cole. You being one of them. So yeah, I had lots of good memories, but bringing my behaviours with me, which was always going to happen. If I'd have gone to Inter Milan, my problems would have gone to Inter Milan. It didn't matter. You know, I was in the car with the captain of Lincoln, leaving Lincoln City, turning round, going like that to everyone at Lincoln, thinking, right, as an addict, you don't believe that you are the problem. But so I'm going like that, thinking, well, yeah, it all went wrong because of you lot. You know, and lo and behold, the problem sat in the front seat, you know, putting his V's up like an idiot. When I get to Derby, the same thing happens. It's a cycle. And it was only a matter of time before things turned out the way that they did.
And yet it's remarkable, if you start drinking at, as you say, 10, 11, 12, that you're still good enough to prove to Lincoln City, for a start, that you're worthy of a professional football career.
Yeah, I don't know if people will understand this, but as an addict, because I've been an addict for I don't know how long, for 20 odd years, 30 years, no one trains like an addict. I don't know if there's probably people in here that probably might understand what I'm trying to say, but addicts train a certain way. And I don't know whether it's because you feel guilty of what you're doing. So when I was at Derby, for instance, and I was out doing what I was doing, when I trained, I knew I had to train as hard as anything because I felt guilty for what I was doing outside of the football ground. So no one would train harder. Nobody would train. I wouldn't allow that. I'd never be the best player, but no one would train harder than me when I turned up. So yeah, as an addict, you just have this personality where you just have to train until you drop. And it's not the wisest thing. It's not the best way to train either. You have to train smart, which I didn't do. But I wasn't a good enough player I wasn't an elite player where elite players they have a switch, what they can just go, and then they can play. And then when they want to just mess around, they can mess around. I had to train how I played. That's how I had to do. That's hence me getting sent off in the first session with the gaffer, because that's the only way I knew how to train, was to every single training session for me was playing against Leicester City or you playing against Forest. That's how it was, even though it was against Tommy Johnson or Mark Pembridge or whoever. But that was a Wembley appearance for me. Everyone was, and that's rightly or wrongly, that's how I trained for all my career.
So you go into train in the morning. Let's go back to Lincoln, because I mean you're a young kid when you go in there. Are the club we that you've got these issues?
The manager at the time was George Kerr initially, and we used to have an assistant manager called John Pickering, who was a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I had a great relationship with him, and it was only him who I felt I could really talk to. And some mornings I'd come in like just stinking of alcohol, and he'd ask me if I'd been drinking the night before, and I'd explain to him that I had. But then I'd go and have a blinding game, which kind of like it justifies in your head. It'll justify it. Well, it's okay. I did it then, so I can do it again today. And they're trying to expect. I would sit and listen to anyone that had anything good to say to me, and I would sit there and I'd just listen to them, but it would go in one ear and out the other, and I'd have to make a mistake myself. I'd have to prove to myself that, go through the emotions myself and make all the mistakes before I would, try and put things right. Because many people have tried over the years, that's for sure. But as I said, if people would speak to me and sit me down, I spoke to many footballers over the years who tried to help me. Eric Steele being one of them. I remember him pulling me at Derby County and to one side and saying, I've heard these rumours, this, that and the other. And I just lied to him. Because the addictive personality is to never tell the truth. You become this famous liar. And that would continue. So yeah, the Lincoln time was fantastic. To make my debut at 16 years old was something incredible. And I look back now and for the type of person that I was, the industry then, that was 1986, I think it was, and the drinking culture in football at that time was just mad. And if you had a Wednesday off, you wasn't going home. All the lads would meet on a Wednesday, and there was no choice. You met, and that was it. Right, we're meeting at the Plough Wednesday, 12 o'clock, lads, and you're there till whenever. And that was just perfect for me, because I could show all my peers now of what a big tough man I am and how much I can drink, and look how good I am when I go out fighting at night, and just nonsense. And that catches up. And then people start to just put up with you rather than actually enjoy wanting to be part of your company.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, the drinking culture, that was football. You talk about turning up for training, smelling of alcohol. I used to go along on a Thursday to the Ram Arena on Rainsway to do my interviews for Radio Derby. And all the players, and as you said, all the players had been out the night before. There was no, I need to have a night off. That was the culture. You played as a team, you drank as a team. And they'd come out to train, and underneath their training tops, they'd have bin liners on to sweat the alcohol out of them. So as you came out, there was this pong of alcohol as they went out. But that was the culture. So you just couldn't get away from it.
No, you couldn't. No, it was. It was just part of. As I said, it was like I'd been put there, and it was perfect for me at that time in my life. That's what I thought anyway. Clearly, it wasn't, and clearly it was going to end in destruction, and it did do. But it clearly just wasn't just me. It was the industry, the football industry. It was just rife with drink at that time, certainly.
Let's talk a little bit about football. So you make your debut 16 years and however many days at Lincoln. They are then relegated to the conference, but come back. Were they happy times? Was it a good club to start at, your local club?
Yeah, we got relegated. We played Swansea City away and we got relegated. So it was a horrific trip all the way back from Swansea. We got put out the Football League. On the way home, we had a meeting. And I remember the manager was Colin Murphy, and he said that the team was going to stay full time, which was a great relief to the players. And I stayed on. And Colin said to me, "I'm going to play you from the start, from the first game this season." And I played every game that season. We got promoted straight back into the league. And the support for Lincoln as a club, I mean, they was getting 10,000, 12,000, in the fourth division. So it was a massive achievement for Lincoln City. And a good club as well, very good club.
And they were the first club to be relegated since the days of when the clubs used to vote for each other to stay in. This is when it was formalised that whoever finished bottom of the Football League was out.
That's right, yeah.
So, tough times, but decent to get back at the first attempt.
Yeah, I mean,
we've seen clubs now go out and they're still nowhere near coming back.
Well, the manager they had at the time was well known, well respected, Colin Murphy. He's not with us no more, God bless him, but he was just way above his times, in front of his times. He really was, and he was just he used to live in my village where I was from, and he was just football crazy. Just knew everything about football, absolutely obsessed. And he would just come out with some of the craziest team talks, talking about Napoleon and just mad, but he was some of the things he used to do. We started a season off where for the first 15 to 20 minutes we wouldn't start the games lively, and he didn't like that. So what he would do at 2:45, he had this idea where he'd get the fire hose, get us all in the showers right at 2:45 and blast us all one by one with this huge hose pipe. I mean, people were nearly getting injured being blasted against the wall and all sorts. And then we had Alan Clark. Remember Alan Clark, the Leeds centre forward? He came in as manager, and he decided it'd be a good idea that at 5-3 when we're all the bell goes, right, all the lads jump up, get right, come on lads, and we're all getting there. And he's got this bottle of Lucozade at the front door, waiting for us to shake our hands. But before anyone goes out, you've got to have a tot of whiskey before you go out and play. And you couldn't say no. You had to have it. So and it was like the family-sized Lucozade bottle as well. It was huge. The lid was huge. So you're like, neck this whiskey, and you go and play. And that was just normal. This is Alan Clark, one of the best centre forwards that the Football League has seen. But yeah, some crazy stories.
How did the move come to Derby about? Were you aware that there was interest from elsewhere?
Yeah, we had a player called, you'll probably remember, Steve Buckley. So he was famous left back at Derby. His brother Alan managed West Brom. Steve came to Lincoln and he played centre half for us, and he spoke to Arthur the gaffer and mentioned my name. He came down to watch, and then they put a bid in. And off I went down the A52.
I find that amusing that the captain of Lincoln was could you not drive at that time?
No.
So how old were you?
21, 22. It was safe for everyone else, Colin, that I wasn't driving.
Maybe, yes, yeah. There is some sense in that.
That's my logic.
Yeah. I just have this feeling that Arthur Cox, he knew about his players. He knew, as Ted McMinn used to say and Tommy Johnson used to say, they'd get called in on a Monday morning and Arthur would say to them, "Were you at that pink parrot," meaning the pink coconut, on Saturday night? "No, gaffer, no." "Are you sure you went?" No, gaffer. And he knew exactly what his players had been up to or were up to. So did he know about you?
I don't know if he knew to the extent of what I was doing. Clearly he didn't. But, you know, I'm sure he knew that I was drinking and I was out. He probably just thought I was getting out too often, out with Tommy, out with Ted, and, you know, up to a bit of mischief. But I don't think he realised to the extent of the trouble that I was, you know, getting to. I think it was, I got locked up, and we were playing, I think we were playing Leicester, it was the playoffs. And then they kept me in the cells for about, I think, 24 hours on Full Street. And then I had a phone call to make. And they said to me, you know, you've got one call to make, who do you want to call? So I thought, well, I've got 3 choices to make. I'm not going to phone my missus. I don't want to phone my mum because that would probably be the worst thing to do. I'm going to have to phone the gaffer up. So I phoned up and it was Roy that picked the phone up.
Oh, Roy would be manager by this time in 94, yeah.
And I says, gaffer, I said, it's Shane, I says, I'm in the police station. I said, I'm not going to be able to make the bus. The phone just went dead. Oh, gosh. And that was it. And I got sent to the Leicester prison. And then the lads went to play Leicester City in the playoff final, which was a bit daunting.
Can you tell us what had happened then? And so the playoff final was it a Monday final, the Leicester one?
Yeah, so you're obviously not supposed to go out 48 hours for a game. I decided to go out, got into a bit of a scrape in town. I was with one of my 2 friends, with 3 of us, but my friend was driving my car, and we'd left a club in town, and it wasn't as if we was out when we shouldn't have been out. It was okay to be out. But as we were driving through the city centre, there was like a white car following us. So I told my friend just to pull over into the lay-by and just wait and just let him go by. We pulled over, and as he pulled over, this car pulled right next to us, so he couldn't get out. So I got out my side and went down, and the window came down, and all of a sudden the pool cue came out and hit me over the head and splattered my head. And then there was a huge fight, and then the police came, and we ran off, and we hid behind this wall. And I just remember I remember the music blaring out on my car. And I just remember the noises of these people just like whacking my car, and we're peeping over the wall, looking at them and just kicking lumps out of my car. Oh, gosh. Anyway, we eventually got home, back to my house. 3 hours later, the police around my house take us back into the cells, keep us there, and then I stay there, and then obviously we go to Leicester Prison. And that was that.
So were you in Leicester Prison the day Derby are playing Leicester at Wembley?
Yeah, it was... as I said before, my life was... I was a very, very, very fearful... I just lived in fear. So I had to try and become this tough person, hence me going out and wanting to be a bit of a lad. Pathetic. So when I got involved in it all, it was like... You know, I'm trying to prove to myself that I can be. Just because I'd seen what I'd seen with my dad and my mum, it was proving to myself. Because when I saw for the first time my dad do that to my mum, it was like I felt worthless and I felt useless and I felt I need to be strong. So me going out and doing all that was me justifying in my head, you know what, I am tough. Whatever you've done, I'm this tough man. But, you know, that was my logic, and my logic was clearly not. It was muddy.
Was he supportive of your football career, your dad?
When he was sober, yeah. When he was about, yeah.
Did he realise you'd got talent and?
Yeah, he used to train me in the front garden. We would train in the front garden for hours and hours. And he was never ever critical either. Never critical, and it wasn't one of them parents that would be pushy. And he was very supportive in that respect, but he was also never turning up to things, and he was also having different women here and kids there, and so, you know, yeah. But he was my dad, and I love him. You know what I mean? I'll always love him, definitely.
Love is blind.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Colin. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? It's some people can. Everyone in this room will have a story to tell. Everyone's got a story. Just because I'm sat here doesn't make my story any better than anyone else's. You know what I mean? Everyone's got a story. you know, and it's how we deal with it, isn't it? I dealt with mine in the way that I felt would help me. And that was to anaesthetise every feeling that I had. I couldn't deal with any emotion whatsoever. I was just rubbish at dealing with my emotions. So as soon as I had to deal with something, right, drugs, right, drink, right, fight, right, football, right, anything, just to escape having to deal with that. I mean, you ask my girls, I remember when I was playing at Derby, I had my water cut off, the electric cut off, just because I couldn't be asked to pay the bills, or just pathetic. Procrastination is a massive problem that I've got. And I'd have, you know, I remember it being in the paper. I had my television, I got a fine for having no TV license, just everything was just piling up. And it was all by my own doing, for sure.
When you talk about it now and you look back and you talk about it openly and freely, and now at 55 and you look back and you got your life together, and obviously we will come on to that, do you think, was that really me?
Yes, because my daughters have never seen, they know exactly what I have been like, but they've never actually seen that person. And I've never really thought I was a bad person, actually, but I remember I had a mentor when I first tried to get clean and sober, and before I became a believer in God. And I didn't know, this guy was a Christian, and I didn't know that. I just liked the way that he was with people. And I got told to go and see him. He said, he'll be able to help you. And when I see him, he says, right, what do you want me to do? I says, well, I just feel like I'm emotionless. I feel like I can hurt people physically, mentally, and I just feel like I can hurt people and just not bother me, to the point where I can probably get some enjoyment out of seeing people being hurt. And if not hurting other people, hurting myself. And that's, you know, he did help me, put it that way. He's the first person that guided me towards my faith, which is, I'm not diverting this conversation here, but that's probably the most important. That is the most important thing in my life, because without my faith, I don't have my girls, I don't have my wife, I don't have everything. Everything that I have is because I have faith in God, and God has given me those two. Given me my wife should never be with me, never.
But your wife was with you
for everything.
When you were having
everything
being cut off,
everything.
And she stuck with you?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I've asked, at 55, Colin, I don't know. I do not know. You know, I've got no money, I've got no looks, I'm a horrible person. I have no clue why, but she is. And, you know, I remember the day when we got together, people would say, oh, you'll never stay together, this, that, and the other, he's this, he's that. And they were probably right in saying that. Of course it was, because of the kind of person that I was then. But here we are. You know, we've been married, I don't know how many years now. We've been married a few years. And she's wonderful. Wonderful. And she's gave me these two beauties here. So, yeah, I've got a lot to be very proud of.
Maybe she could see through the drink, the drugs, the way that you were, the way that it affected you, and thought, if we could somehow get through this, there is a genuine person in there. It just needs something to bring it out. Yeah,
I mean, I remember the day when I had to go and meet Brendan Batson after I'd just been told that I was going to get banned. I was banned initially for life, or being sent to, because I initially got banned for life because it was the second drug test that I failed. So I had to go in front of a whole union of people, David Dean and everyone, and speak to them, and Brendan Batson. And I had to explain to all those, you know, how long I've been taking drugs and what the problem is. And then I had to come back, and then I had to kind of explain it to Josie that I've just, you know, I'm banned for life. I've lost it, you know. And where my head was at the time, I'm saying, right, do you know what I'll do? I'll be a builder. At least I can continue taking drugs, and you know, that's where my head was at the time. But she's very clever. She's actually, because of we being together, the job that she does now, she's a psychotherapist and a counsellor. So she went into that kind of work because of the I suppose because of the life that we've had together. And she's incredible at her job, incredible. And she's actually passed it down to these two as well. These two are mostly very intelligent, both of them, which helps me because you're never too old to learn. At 55, I listened to these two like I'd listen to my wife, and rightly so as well. So yeah, I've got a lot to be proud of for sure.
Let's go back to 1994. So you missed the playoff final.
Yeah.
Against Leicester. Ron McFarland is none too impressed and slams the phone down on you. Derby lose to Leicester, as we all painfully remember. So it's still the second division, or whatever it was called back in the 1990s. You come out of your short stay at Her Majesty's pleasure in Leicester. How does it recover from there, a relationship with a football club? Because that's not the end of your time at Derby. Most people would think Derby would just get shut of him, get him out the building. We don't want him around here. But that wasn't the case.
Well, it was virtually. I mean, it was virtually because then Jim came in, and then it was Jim that took me in. And then he says to me, look, we've had an offer from West Brom. I want you to go and speak to Alan Buckley to go on loan because he wanted me out of the football club. And at the time, as always, at that time, my father had got poorly when Jim was there. And we were playing West Bromwich Albion at home, actually. That's how I remember it. And I was sat in the stands, and I remember on the tannoy as it came and the game was going on, can I go downstairs and there's a phone call? So I went downstairs, I had to sit down in the office, and my mum was on the phone. I thought, what are you doing calling me while the game's on? He says, oh, are you sat down? I said, yeah. He says, oh, your dad's he's had to be rushed into hospital, he's had a brain tumour. It doesn't look like he's gonna make it or recover. So this is while I'm in the midst of everything, of my addictions and goodness knows what. And I just remember just in the office, like it was just like the office had gone in slow motion. I completely forgot about the game. And I made my way back to see my dad, yeah. But it was around that time then that Jim was in charge, and he, rightly so as well, wanted to get me out of the football club. I don't think he really understood the extent of what was going on in my life, and he just needed to get me out, and he brought Chrissy Powell in.
But there was a year, so it was 94, Derby lost to Leicester.
Yeah.
Jim came in the following summer. So there was the 94-95 season where Roy is still the manager. Players are now being sold.
Yeah.
Because this sounds like a familiar story with Derby. They're running out of money. It's not happened a time or two, has it? And so Paul Kitson's being sold, Tommy Johnson's being sold, etc., etc. Were you brought back into the fold for that year, or was there always maybe just keep him at arm's length?
No, I was brought back in. A second chance, I suppose. I was brought back in just to... whether they was going to use me or not, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But they did bring me back in. And then, as I said to you, it wasn't long before they farmed me off out to West Brom.
Did you play much that season, the 94? No.
No, not at all, no. I don't remember how many games I played, to be honest. As I said, I never really made the shirt my own, which disappointed me at Derby. But when I look back at it now, I understand why. Because of the person that I was, and how I was living my life, and it was up and down. I couldn't be trusted. So when I got the game, I tried to do my best, and that's all I could ever do. Some days it was good enough, some days it wasn't. But it was what I was doing away from the football pitch that was causing me all the problems.
Did you think, all right, okay, I've had my chance at Derby, it's gone, and a fresh start at another football club might help? Or did you think in the back of your mind, well, a bit like coming from Lincoln to Derby, I'm just simply moving the issues?
No, because, I mean, leaving Derby, going to West Brom, the same was that to Derby, because, well, it's Arthur's fault, it's Roy's fault, it's the kit lady's fault, it's their fault. It's never my fault. Of course it isn't. Never, ever my fault. And it never would be until I got my hands and knees and surrendered and said, right, listen, you've beat me. Until you do that, until you actually get on your hands and knees, surrender, and say, you've actually beat me, I can't win. This is a fight, I just cannot win. And my ego was as big as anyone's. I was stubborn. And I thought I could fight, and I thought, well, I'm here. And I'll keep getting up, and I'll keep getting up. And in prison, there was clinic, there was being banned for life. And I just kept getting up, and kept taking a beating, and just kept getting up, and it didn't bother me. Kept getting up, but until I went, I give in. That's when my life started to improve and started to get better.
So there was a moment when you've beaten me. How am I gonna turn my life around? How am I going to move it on? And when you say beaten you, and you've told us all these stories earlier on, but you go to West Brom and you're still at it, but you're smart, or you think you're smart, because you carry a clean urine sample around with you. So when the drug testers come around, I'm clever, I'm smart. But then one day they turn up and you're not ready for it. And we know what happens. You get banned from football and for life. But that sort of is repealed eventually, and you are allowed to be back into football. Your dad's life is coming to an end. But even that, and I thought when I spoke to you before, that would be the moment. But I remember you telling me the story of you've got to get over to Lincoln to say goodbye to your dad, and you're driving there from West Brom. So West Brom to Lincoln, or was it Newark?
Yeah.
Into Lincolnshire is quite a drive, and you think, yeah, you should just go straight there. But you didn't, did you?
No, we played, I can't remember I think it was, I don't know, Leeds or Hull or somewhere like that, at West Brom. I had the phone call every Saturday, after every game I always had a phone call off my mum, always asking how I'd done, and I always give her the same answer. Yeah, I played okay, mum, keep her happy. This phone call was different. She said, just before getting into my car, she says, you better get home quick. The nurses have said that your dad's not going to make it through the night. So I said, right, no problem. So put the phone down, got in my car, just leaving West Brom's ground. And I thought, I'll leave West Brom, I'll drive through to Mansfield that way, because my dealer's in Mansfield, and I can call there, I'll have a quick drink and do what I need to do there, and then make it back home to Newark. It's only 25 minutes from Newark, Mansfield is. So I stayed at Mansfield, got back around to Mansfield around probably, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 7:30. My phone's going wild, my sisters are phoning me up, my mum's phoning me up. I just completely ignore it, because by this time I've had my first line of coke, and I've done copious amounts of other stuff. By about 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, I decide now that, it's time to go. Like, he'll wait. Dad'll wait, do you know what I mean? He'll hang on for me. So I get in my car wide, clearly, and drive from Mansfield back to Newark. And as I get back into the hospice back at Newark, I can remember walking through the doors. And as I walked through the doors, my two sisters and my mum was sat there. My mum wouldn't go up to the room because then the nurses opened the doors at the top, and they said straight away, like, you better come up quick, as I just walked through the door. And as we walked up, it says, oh, quick. So we ran upstairs, me and my two sisters. And it was then I just got on my hands and knees and held my dad's hand. His eyes had been shut for 7 days. And he started to take his last breath. And when he started to take his last breath, clearly it's not a very nice thing to watch, but I remember just thinking and just saying and just praying, that I just want to I'm going to be the best version of me I can be, just try and look after my sisters and my mum. And at that time, when I was saying the prayer, my dad's eyes opened, and the whole room just kind of just was 1,000 times brighter than that. It was just so bright. And you have to understand that as a kid growing up in my house, I'd never heard of God, never heard of faith, never heard of anything. The only time I'd heard of that was when we go to a funeral or go to a wedding. Never, ever heard the word. So when I see this and a sense of like just calmness, when everything else around me should really have, normally I'd have been going absolutely crazy because my dad's taking his last breath. If I hadn't have made it there that night, I'd have probably killed myself anyway because of what I'd done. If he'd have not hung on for me, I would have killed myself 100% because, you know, the addiction gets hold of you and you do what you do, irrespective of knowing it could have been the last time I ever see my dad alive. But you know what? I'll just have this. I'll have this line of coke and I'll just have that ecstasy tablet and I'll just have that. He'll wait for me. And bless him, I don't know what pain he was in, waiting for me, but God kept him there for me. And then, yeah, I had my experience with the Lord and changed my life forever. And as I said to you, I wasn't from a Christian background. I wasn't from a church background, didn't know God, nothing. And even from that experience then, it wasn't like, right, straight from that experience then I went home and I was this good boy. You know, it was a transformation that started, you know, and a journey. There's a verse in Ezekiel 36:26 that says that God will, because you talk about when you give your life to the Lord that he will transform you. God will, but he transforms you from the inside out. And the verse says that I will change your heart of stone into a heart of flesh and give you a new spirit. And that verse just resonates with me massively because it goes back to what I said to you about my mentor, about I had a heart of stone. That's how they were my words to him. I just felt my heart was like just a rock. And I need it to be soft. I want it to be soft. I want to feel people's pain so I can help people. Because I can't help people. That's what I wanted to do. I felt the need to be that person that wants to help people. So without feeling other people's pain, I can't help you. So that was my plea to him. So yeah, going back to my dad, he passed away. And I did what I knew best. And that was I left my dad, I went out and I got drunk. That was what I'd conditioned myself to do. That's what I knew, that's what I did best. But from that day forward, it was a very, very slow process of me getting to know God, experiencing more with him. And it's just been a really, really long journey. But one that has transformed my life completely as a person, because I laugh and joke, but I really was a heathen. Do you know what I mean? And I mean that with the greatest. I wasn't a nice person at all. And I'm not saying I'm a great person now, but from what I was to where I am today, it's important now that I continue with keeping him at the helm of my life, because without God, I don't have these two beautiful girls. You know what I mean? So, and my wife, my family comes second, because if I don't put God first, I don't have these. And some people might think, why can you put them in front of your family? But he has to be first. And I put him first, and then that means that I get my beautiful girls and my wife.
So maybe the inner strength that you actually have, and maybe you didn't know that you did have, kept you on the straight and narrow, that it's easy to say, oh, I'll change, I won't do this, I won't do that. And temptation comes along, you go out and, I'll just have one drink tonight, or it won't matter. To suddenly say, no, this is it. This is the only way forward. Must take some doing.
Yes, it does. That if you go back to the clinic, that was probably the scariest thing that I've actually ever done, was to admitting that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. Really scary, because at that time then I didn't understand God. I didn't know God at the time, so I was alone with that thought. And people will give you credit for, people still do now, for, oh, you've done really well for 27, 28 years being clean and sober. If it was down to me, I'd be out getting absolutely leather. It's not me. I give all my glory to God, and that is the truth, because if it was down to me, I'd have been down the pub with my friends and doing this and doing that.
Let's talk football, because we remember you saying that when you're in Leicester prison, who am I going to phone? Perhaps you should have phoned Ghostbusters. You phone Roy McFarland and he puts the phone down on you, but Roy becomes Chesterfield manager and actually becomes your manager again.
Yeah, I became Roy's captain at... I was actually at Tranmere at the time, and we were playing an FA Cup game against Chesterfield. And then the physio from Chesterfield ran on, and I had a quick word with the physio saying, you know, can you ask Roy if he wants a left back during the game? And I got a phone call the following day, and then that summer I went back to Chesterfield, and we had some great years. I've got the utmost respect for Roy, the utmost. He was a great gaffer. We had some big arguments, which he won every one. I got bitten off more than I could chew, you know, clearly. But I loved him. I'd have run through walls for Roy. He was a great man, a great manager.
And clearly he thought something of you, making you captain.
He did, yeah. I mean, we you know, whenever I see him, I laugh and joke. There's a story that when Roy became manager of Derby, actually, after Arthur had left, Roy, the gaffer, got me into his office and he says, "Look," he says, "we're going to vote you for being the best trainer this month." I said, "Oh wow, fantastic! Thanks, gaffer." And he bent under his table and gave me 24 cans of lager. So I blame him for all my problems that I've had. And we do laugh and joke about it, but yeah, a great guy. Who, you know, even the gaffer then, when Roy was at Chesterfield, he trained with us and he was still the best player on the pitch. Even at that age, he was like incredible. So yeah, a good guy.
A phenomenal footballer. Oh. And as you say, he could still do it.
Yeah.
Wearing the tracksuit managers. We were on an Anglo-Italian trip. They were good trips. And Roy's manager of Derby by this time. And this ball comes somewhere from out of the sky and it comes down. He traps it on his chest, lets it roll down and smacks it back where it came from. And Graham Richards and I were stood there watching it and we just both turned and looked at each other and say, he's still got it now, and whatever age he was. So yeah, a phenomenal player. Did football keep you, I don't want to use the word straight and narrow, but it's the only one I can think of at the moment. At that time then, you got back, you got your career back, the ban had gone, so there was the genuine second chance. Was football...
Yeah, but I found it really difficult because I'm playing sober and clean. So, and that, it sounds strange, but I'm having to play, I'm not having to play, I'm playing clean and sober, which was a totally different experience for me. Because I said to you, I had this image of being this tough guy on the pitch and off the pitch and everything else, and it was just one big act, just all an act. You know, and it just carried on. But then once I got back in the second time when I was clean and sober, after probably 6 months of playing clean and sober, I kind of got used to it. And then the professionalism kicks in, and then, you know, the will to win comes back, but your anger issues kind of dissipated a little bit.
And that must have been the test as well when the match is over and it's into the players' lounge and let's just relax. And how did you cope with that?
Straight home. Yes. I mean, Chesterfield, they actually went to the local pub. That was their players' lounge. So as the captain, I'd just go straight home, and that would be it. So I was speaking to some gentleman earlier actually about a guy, Lee Carsley, that used to play for us at Derby. And after every game we played, we used to give him stick because he'd never go out with us. And he said, "Now I'm going home for a Chinese and doing this and doing that. You're boring, you are." And Lee goes on to play in a World Cup, plays 15 years in the Premiership. You know, and I go to prison and go to the clinic and get banned. So, give me boring people every day of the week. Every day of the week.
Even at Chesterfield, though, it's not plain sailing because you get an injury and you get an infection in the knee. So that's testing as well. Every
injury is testing because you're left with your own thoughts, and I wasn't great to be left on my own with my own thoughts. So every injury was always a test, but that's just part and parcel of football. It's a very lonely place to be. You're left on your own most of the days, doing your training, doing your rehab. You get sent out on loan. You can think you're a bit of a loner because you're not around the first team no more. But that's where the mental strength comes in, and I'm quite resilient in that way. I wasn't going to veer back to doing what I was doing or used to be doing. I wasn't. I had meetings when I first came out of the clinic. I had to do meetings every day as well. I had to go to the clinic every single day after training, which was a bit of a ball ache, I have to say, but it's something that had to be done. But you tick the boxes, got it done, and I've eventually got myself fit again.
What about when football says that's it, you're done? How did you cope with that?
I didn't cope with it. I couldn't say right, that's it. I waited. A manager called Lee took over from Roy, and it was at Chesterfield. And I'm not the type of person that likes to end things. So rather than retire, I got retired. He just said, "That's the last game you'll be playing. Do you want to be a strength and conditioning coach?" I went back to school to do my exams and whatever, and that's where I started that journey at Chesterfield. I was given the opportunity there, and a great club as well, fantastic club, with some great times. And it was a great journey, being a coach. I loved it. I loved the responsibility, trying to pass on, what I'm speaking about to the lads. Some were receptive, some weren't, but the majority were. And we were successful, renowned for being a bit tough on the players. But that's just how I was. And it brought us success. So I really enjoyed that.
So that was the transition into really what you're doing now in a way.
Well, eventually Dean Saunders came to Chesterfield. It was Dean that then gave me the sack at Chesterfield, moved me on. And for the first time in my life ever, I was out of football, which was actually a very scary place to be as well. But that's when I went down to a friend's gym in Darley, started working there, personal training. We got on really well. From there, then was when Mr. Morris came in. I went as fitness coach at the football club, did the Rams TV. And the story with the Rams TV is quite a story, to be honest. I was asked to go there and do the job that we did. I never really understood the extent of what would we be doing, to be honest. So as a kid at school, I was a mute. I didn't talk. That might seem strange because I'm talking now, but you have to believe me. Because of what I'd seen at home, and I couldn't talk or anything. So then, this is how God works, and this is after I became a believer. God then gives me an opportunity then to earn money at a football club by being on TV and talking, and that's how He works. That's why I give Him all the glory for sure, because I can't go from being a mute at school to not wanting to talk or being scared to talk to anyone, to them being like paid to actually be on TV and talk with guys like you. So life was incredible.
It was a great time, and Rams TV was really good fun to do. Show the photo of us at Wembley in 2019. It should have been a golden time for Derby, shouldn't it? They should have ended up in the Premier League with one of those various teams or managers, and it seemed to be a different manager every season. Just never quite happened.
No, I think Mr. Morris coming for an awful lot of stick, but people wasn't moaning when he was spending 6 million, 10 million, 5 million players and things like that. So You know, he put an awful lot of money into the club himself. They were great times. I mean, if you're talking about you bringing Frank Lampard to Derby County, you bring in Ashley Cole, one of the best left backs in the world at one time in his career. You bring Wayne Rooney to the football club. Okay, it didn't work out, but to have these people at your football club, some people called it a circus, but again, I go back to when Frank was here. It was far from a circus. You know, I thought he was an excellent manager, but his hometown club came in for him, so he had to go for the job. Was it too early? Possibly. He's not going to turn it down, is he? But if he gets Coventry up, who knows? He might get another opportunity to go back there. We don't know. But for Derby County to bring such players to the football club and be part of our football club, I just think it's amazing. Whether it works out or not, I think, you know, to have them kind of people in and around the football club is just fantastic.
But then you got the chance to work actually with the first team as strength and fitness coach.
Strength and conditioning coach. My first week there, I had to go to Wayne's house and train Wayne on his own one-to-one because he couldn't get in. So I had to drive to him and see him. And it was my first week there, and it was kind of a bizarre week where it was during COVID time, and the doctor's saying to me, don't you go in his house. And when I get there, Wayne's at his front door. Go on, yeah, come in. So I'm in. Get me in there. So then I'm sat in his kitchen, and his kitchen's about 10 times the size of this, and there's kids running around everywhere, footballs flying everywhere.
Was it a bit surreal?
Ridiculously surreal. Ridiculous. I'm like, then we walk down to the bottom of his garden, he's got this huge AstroTurf pitch, and I'm doing this one-on-one session with arguably one of Britain's best players ever produced. Very, very surreal. But actually my daughter, when she was 11 and 12, the dream, when she was 11, she's 22 now, and she had a dream when she was 11. She came downstairs and said, I've had a dream that you're going to work with Wayne Rooney. And then 10 years later, or whatever it was, years later, there I was, working with Wayne Rooney. Her dreams come true.
What was he like to work with when you're dispatched to go to his palace to get him fit? Because he could pile on the pounds, could Wayne, shall we say?
He could pile on the pounds, yeah. But
so you say it was surreal, but that's your job. You've got to go there and work with him. What was his reaction to you turning up and having to...
He was just like any normal guy, just like any normal player. He got on. He did what I asked him to do. He got on with it. I was extremely nervous. I can't lie. Extremely. You know, I'm not going to turn around and say, "Listen, Wayne, I think you need to be, you know, doing." He's England's best, you know. So, but yeah,
you didn't say to him, "Look, if you want a bit of a tip about how to strike the ball past an England goalkeeper, Chris Woods, I'm your man."
I think he knew about it, to be honest. I think
he'd watched the video.
Well, I brought it all.
Did he say it? I'm sure it was an own goal, Shane. Yeah, anyway, sure. So what happened in the end?
Well, obviously Wayne got the job, and Wayne, as soon as he got the job, he would talk about how he would look after everyone, which was great. And it was his first job as well, so we have to remember that. And then obviously the administrators came into the football club. We're warming up on the first team pitch, and the players are having a meeting. I'm putting the cones up, and I get a call, you know, go over, I need to go and speak to someone. So I'm taken off the pitch, I run upstairs, and then kind of shoved into this room where the administrators were. I'm virtually just given my papers and then said to go, you know, you've lost your job. Basically, that was it. So I said a few words to the people and then went downstairs, and all the lads were still training. So I thought, well, what do I do? Do I carry on taking the warm-up? Do I go home? And they said, no, you've got to get off the premises. I said, oh, wow. So I quickly got my stuff and went out in the car park, and then it was raining. No one was there. I'm walking out sad, and then I realised I had no car. So I thought, I've got to go back in with my tail between my legs now and ask someone for a lift. So I went back in. Someone gave me a lift from there to my home. As I'm going home, I got a phone call off the other S&C guy saying, look, Wayne wants to speak to you. I says, well, I can't speak. I says, because I'm in the car at the minute. So when I get home in 5 minutes, give me a call. I didn't get a call for 2 weeks. During that 2 weeks, ITV phoned me up and said, do you want to do an interview? I said, yeah, of course, yeah. I said, I want to proof everything before everything goes out. And they said, yeah, no problem. they come round, they said, we'll paint you in a picture that makes you look this, makes you look that, and we'll just be honest. I said, yeah, no problem. I know what they wanted. And then the question came, oh, so has Wayne been back in touch with you since you've left? I says, no. I says, but it's his first job. I think he'll probably look back at it and think he probably could have done it differently. That's all I said. And then I got the phone call from Wayne, like just going, being not being very nice. Not being very nice. So we ended really sadly, like I thought. But, you know, that's life. It's life.
It was a horrible time for lots of local people who'd worked at the football club for years. And, you know, given their sort of careers to working for the football club, and suddenly you're out on your ear. As you said, you were effectively almost frog marched off the building, and you weren't the only one, were you?
Well, no, I mean, I'd only been there 2 years, and I thought, like you said, there was ladies working in the kitchen that had been there 30 years. You know, and I said at the time, I said, I'd rather me go now, you know, rather than one of those lose, you know, because with my faith, I just knew that I knew I'd be all right. I knew I'd be all right. So, yeah, it was a sad time, but, you know, you move.
You do. New venture coming up.
Yes, eventually the gymnasium that I've been working at for the last 10 years, me and my partner, Matt, he's the business, he's the brains behind everything. We've acquired a gym in Darley. So yeah, exciting times, really exciting times. So that's in Darley Abbey, guys. So if any of you fancy coming down and want to get beasted, or just come down and chat.
I've asked lots of questions. Now it's your turn. Gentleman over here.
Give us your the toughest player you've had to mark.
Yeah.
And give us your favourite fan chant.
Oh, gosh. Toughest opponent would be Zola. The best chant? You don't hear them as a player. Well, I didn't anyway, unless I was saying something good, which was very rare. So as a chant, seriously, I mean, being called obviously some not very nice names, but I see it as pantomime, to be honest. That's obviously what it is. Unless it's your own fans calling you calling you that, then it's a little bit different.
Why Zola? What's so special?
The size, just the build, the brain, the speed, just everything that I wasn't, he was, which made it a hot day, and it was tiring, and I was dizzy, and yeah, everything. It just didn't go well. No. You see, the thing is, right, when you hear a football fan shout, just kick him, right? Which is the famous, it's like a non-league chant. You've got to catch the person first to kick him. Do you know what I mean? And that's, remember about the elite players, but they're quite fast.
Come on, who wants to ask the next question? Gentleman at the front here.
Yeah, hi Shane. Yeah, you talked about the sort of the sliding doors moment in your life. What was the sliding doors moment in your career, which, yeah, you thought if I'd have done that differently, I would have?
I can't really, clearly, if I wasn't an addict, and if I wasn't an alcoholic, and I wasn't living the life that I was left, I know I'd have played in the highest level. 100%. I'm not the type of person that would ever brag about anything. But one thing I was always confident about was football, because that's just what I knew. And Roy would always tell me that you should have played at a higher level. And does it make me sad? No, it doesn't make me sad at all, really. It's nice for him to hear that, but it's just words. But I do believe, you know, if I wasn't what I was. But then, if I wasn't the addict, would I have had the same mindset and trained the way that I did? You know, so I don't know. It's all hearsay, isn't it? It's just words, isn't it? It's nice to hear people say, whether people have their opinion about me, I don't mind.
When I looked doing the research years ago, 523 games. That is some career.
It's not bad, yeah. It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. I don't know what to say. It's all right, yeah.
It's all right. It'll do. Next question.
This probably leads me on to my question, what you've just said, but if you were to choose to sign for a Premier League football team next season, who would you choose?
Manchester United.
Why?
Because Manchester United was a team that my dad supported. So that's kind of... Obviously, I could never go and watch games because obviously I was always playing football myself. But he supported Man United because he loved Georgie Best, and that's where my love for Man United came. So, yeah, as a kid, I liked Man United for that reason only. Yeah, Man United.
Just be the right time to sign for them with Carrick in charge and the Renaissance.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. Exactly. I could be just the missing link. Who knows? Who knows?
Why we're not convinced. Does it show the power that footballers have, that United have brought in all these managers here, managers there, managers? They brought Carrick in to do a job, to try and steer them away from the lower reaches, and now they're talking about possibility of Champions League. Do the players have that much power, Shane? Did you have that power as a group of players?
I think it's different at the elite level. I do. I think personally, as a player, all I can do, given my experience, as a whatever manager came in, whether I liked him or not, I wasn't playing for the manager. I was playing for the club. They're paying me, so whatever club I was at, I would run into brick walls for the football club because they're putting food on my table. For Man United, you look at the managers that have had Amorim, for instance, the players are going to be really upset. Or they have a totally different mentality now, I do believe, to what they had, say, even 10, 15 years ago. They have got an awful lot of power. It would be easier to get rid of the manager than it would be to get rid of 5, 6, 7 players that are worth probably 30, 40, 50 million or whatever. But you see it time and time again where it's just a change of voice. It was obvious to me that Amorim was very stubborn in his ways, and he was playing a way that the Man United players obviously wasn't accustomed to and didn't like. So because of that, they're not going to... I don't think players do. I've never hold the fact that players go out and don't try. I won't accept that. Won't accept it at all. I'm not saying I'm right. I just can't accept that, hearing that, because it just does not seem right at all. But maybe there are players. I don't know. But yeah, for the Man United thing, I think Carrick's doing a fantastic job. I do know that.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, at the start of the interview, you said you scored 2 goals for Derby. Could you talk us through the other one?
Gladly, Joe. Gladly. So this is the one that Collins forgot. It's Peterborough away, edge of the box, right foot half volley. You don't even remember it?
I don't remember it now.
I've scored 1 goal in my life with my right foot. It happened to be for Derby County. The Stato man from Derby County is here, and you remember it? Huh? Unbelievable. Yeah, but that's Peterborough away. It was.
Did we win?
Right, 2-1, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. 2-1, yeah.
Do you Graham Richards a bit then? Give us a bit of a commentary on how it came about.
No, because you'll probably watch it and you'll probably it was an own goal, or is this or is that. You'll play it down either way, so there's no point, is there? I'll just say it's a right foot half volley from the edge of the box. It went through a few bodies, but ended up in the back of the net, and we won.
I'm going to get on YouTube and...
Yeah, I think you ought to.
And it's because joking aside, the one against Sheffield Wednesday was an absolute screamer.
Very enjoyable.
And full house at the baseball ground, as you say, way down in the cup. Is that when Sheffield Wednesday went on to the final, didn't they? Yeah. Derby lost the replay up at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
But no, that 3-3 draw was a special night for you to score that goal. I'm only having a bit of fun with you about it because it was so special. I can hear Graham's commentary on it now. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's brought me a lot of free drinks, which probably was didn't go down too well. But it's how Derby fans remember me as is that goal. Something special happened. As I said, we were speaking to this gentleman earlier. It wasn't the greatest game by any stretch. There's a lot of 6 goals in it, but some games just have that. I don't know, whatever it is, they just got to have something about it. Whether it was because it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night at the baseball ground, it was a bit misty. It was magical, just magical, and just so many good things happened in it.
And despite everything that you went through, and okay, maybe Derby fans didn't really know about it at the time, there's something heartening about that. Those Derby fans that are old enough, including me, can look back and think, if you have one defining image or moment of Shane Nicholson's Derby County career, it's that moment rather than everything else that went on around.
100%. 100%. I mean, my time wasn't bad at Derby, even though I was going through what you're going through. And I would suggest there'd have been more of me going through things like that. But, you know, I made wrong choices, which we do in life. You have to, you know, live with the consequences. I've done that. And I'm here to tell the story. You know, I've been in a position where I'm able to turn it around with the hope of our Lord. And now all I want to do is be able to go out there and just help other people. That's just, you know, if you ask me what my job is now, is to be a servant to the Lord, you know, and just help people. And that's what, when you're given the Holy Spirit inside of you, when you give your life, that's just what you want to do. You just want to give and you just want to help, which is something that I didn't actually. That wasn't me. That just was not me. So. If anyone wants to remember me, I'm not bothered whether it's remember me about football. That was just a small part of my life, a small part, which I'm thoroughly grateful of, because it's brought me here today, and it's took me around every Premiership football club to be able to speak to every single academy player and professional player, and share my testimony with them, which is it's just. And beautiful. I love it. You know, I just love being able to share things with people. As I've enjoyed this, but I'll repeat what I said earlier. We've all got a story. Every single person in this room will have a story to tell. Please don't think that mine is any more special than anyone else's, because it is not. That's for sure. And we just have to give a lending ear to anyone, and listen to anyone's, you know, problems. And, you know, listen to people share, because, as I said to you earlier, I was a mute, and I never communicated with people. I never spoke to people, which might seem unusual, but now it's like I've got verbal diarrhea, and I thank God for that. I'm actually happy that He has done that for me, and He's given me that.
Shane, everybody does have a story, but I think we'd all agree here tonight, and those listening to the podcast will agree, it's a remarkable story. And I think what we all say is, we're glad you're still here. Shane Nicholson.
Thank you. Thank you, mate.
Shana, thanks for joining us at Mr. Shaw's house, and thanks to the special crowd here this evening. Our next episode will be the final one for this season, and it's quite timely. 30 years on from promotion to the Premier League, we're joined by the man who scored the goal to seal that promotion, Robin van der Laan. That's out on April the 30th. Don't forget, if you've missed any of the episodes in this season, they're all available wherever you get your podcasts from.
Life After the Rams is a Backpass production.